former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. Maybe coming to a city near you.
Hopefully.
Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, Coach.
Oh.
All right. Good afternoon, man.
Good to see you, Coach. What's behind you?
You got your game face on, Pat, huh?
Yeah, it's a big night tonight. You know, I'm trying to get some things
it is.
right. Yeah, it's a big night tonight. AFC North football on prime time. You know, obviously we're excited about it. Let's go. Hey, that's what we're talking about. I see 6 offensive linemen in black and gold tonight. So we're obviously excited for that. What do you got behind you there? A couple rings? Just letting people know we got a couple of these?
We had a little dilemma in the house this week. You know, AJ, I don't know if you've gone through this yet, but my 13-year-old won the national volleyball championship down there in Skyline, Dallas, and she was kind of bragging about how big her ring was, and made a comment that it was bigger than our Super Bowl ring. So I had to line that thing up and see what the hell we got going here. So I mean,
it's close.
I thought I'd share that with everybody. Have you run into this yet, AJ?
No, I have not. You know, Texas does things a little different, Coach. We don't have any national champions yet, 13 over here, but yeah, it's pretty impressive ring.
You running into this, bro? My daughter's ring almost bigger than my Super Bowl ring. Had to line these things up, get a different eye on it. Congrats to your daughter, man. We were obviously chatting with you during the draft. I think that might have been the beginning of the season. We didn't really know what all was going to happen. They ended up winning the national championship. Hey, let's go. That's awesome. Yeah. Congrats.
Yeah, that was great. What a great team. They won 9 tournaments, first place in every tournament, won the nationals. So it was an incredible year, incredible run. So very proud of her.
And she almost won the biggest ring in the house. Almost.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get back to work and win another one. He's 13 years old and bringing home a ring like that. That's scary. Everything's bigger in Texas, they say. But
yeah, especially whenever you win 9 tournaments in the national championship. Congrats to them. Let's talk about you saying I'm going to have to get back to work to maybe win another one. We have already started floating your name for any job that is available, both college and the NFL. You let us know when to stop. We will. And obviously you did not tell us to do this, so we just want to let you know the situations we are putting you in publicly anytime a name pops up. On that note, Coach is getting fired here already. Callahan down in Tennessee gets fired. I don't know if you've ever been fired in the middle of the season. I don't know your entire history of that, but what do you think goes into that decision-making process? And then if you're a staff that is still there after a coach gets fired, what do you think the mentality is for them there?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult. And I think just like anything in our profession, you always look at the personal. And this is very difficult on the families, and I think as coaches in our industry professionally, we understand it's part of the job description, because there is change each and every year. So that's the first thing that I look to is just, how's the family, and because there's things that you go through. We were released in near the end of the season in 19, and really the toughest part is what the kids have to endure, at school and in the neighborhood and things like that. So that's the tough part. But the game goes on, and that's the way this business is, and it's the brutal truth of it. But the first thing I always think about is I just hope that the families are good. There's a new direction. There's going to be change. There's going to be adjustment. It happens each and every year, really throughout every organization. It's just a matter of how much. So it's part of our business. It's the tough part of our business. But yeah, I just think that times like this, it's a gut check because you can't last very long in this league without going through some adversity in that area.
On that note, so you said gut check not only in that building, probably around the league, right? Whenever one team fires a coach, it's like, hey, this potential, I don't want to say floodgates open, but there's obviously other jobs that are being talked about publicly, which is what the NFL is. Sucks for the families, sucks for the kids. Oh, bad. I mean, that just absolutely sucks what they have to go through in their actual lives day to day. But now other jobs, is there a thought like, hey, and I don't know if you've ever been in this position either, because it seemed like all you did was win during the regular season whenever we watched you. So I assume you'd have to go back in the day. But like other places around the league, is there like a little bit of a chatter? Okay, there's the first one almost. There's the first card to fall. Is that something that happens amongst coaches?
I think the obvious is, it's part of, the media, exposure that everybody is in tune with. I mean, you have to, because it's part of your job. I mean, I used to, keep my head in the sand in the old days, and it just doesn't serve you very well. You got to be aware of what's going on around you, because if you're not, your players are, your coworkers are, your assistant coaches are, their families are. So you have to be in tune with all that. Personally, I'm not a fan of making changes in season, regardless. Now, that's above my pay grade. So those are conversations that really probably go on above the coaching staff and coaching operations. But I just feel when you're going through these difficult times, there's so many people involved in what it takes to win. Your support staff, your personnel department, everybody involved, and it's an incredible opportunity in my view that gets wasted when you make change in season, because I think there's so much more to learn from others. We all understand the responsibility of the head coach and the coordinators and things like that, but adversity is part of it. I mean, you lose 2, 3, 4 in a row. That real coaches, you have to dig out of that. I mean, that's part of surviving and advancing in this league, is to go through those moments. So, yeah, I was this is just my personal opinion. I wish that these opportunities would just push forward and let these coaches try to fight their way out of it.
Yeah, that's a very good personal opinion. You're allowed to give your personal opinion. How many years in the NFL did you spend? Have you spent?
1993, so 30, 31, 32 plus.
That's pretty good.
It's a long time.
So I think you're allowed to have your own personal opinion. I think you're allowed.
Thank you.
I think you've earned it. Yeah, I think you've earned it, and we appreciate that. Okay, go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, Coach, something that actually seems to fast-track some of these coaches getting fired is injuries that happen to these teams. We look around the league. Obviously, look, Tampa Bay, they're handling it well. They have a bunch of guys down, still winning. San Fran, just a rash of injuries, it seems like, the last few years. How is that something as a coaching staff that you guys talk about leading into the season, like plan on depth? Like, how do you handle that? Because at some point you're going to deal with the old injury bug. You just hope it's not to certain areas of your team. But how is that something that some teams find a way to work through and other teams seem to really struggle?
Big believer in trust your tradition, trust your experiences. AJ, 2010 is something I reference all the time as a head coach. 77 players that win a Super Bowl. When you're able to keep, you break down to the 53-man roster at the end of training camp and keeping 68 players in the building, every single one of those guys is so important to the journey, because, you think about, we had 68 when we started the season, but I think it might have been 65 back then. It took 77 players. So 12 guys came from outside the building to contribute to a Super Bowl victory. So, and now you have 17 games. So I think it's even more prominent. You have to develop your younger players. You got to get your younger players ready. Last year in 24 in Dallas, we knew our depth was going to be younger. You would have hoped maybe your injury challenges would have came later in the season. Give your younger players a little better opportunity to be ready. Sometimes it goes that way, sometimes it doesn't. It's so important to find ways to continue to develop the young players in season. So much has been taken away from the training environment, and particularly in training camp in the off-season program, from the players, especially the padded work. I mean, the injuries to the offensive line, I don't know what the numbers are. I'm sure you guys have it analytically. I mean, sitting in this chair watching the league from this scope, it just I can't believe how many injuries there are week in and week out. They have to be super high for comparables throughout the history. I've seen nothing like it. Every time we talk about a game, that's the first thing you look at the injury report, how it affects the matchups. Where's the stress point on the O line, D line? Because everything starts right there. And you used to think that if you had 8 really good offensive linemen, you could navigate and get through the season, because the consecutive starts of 5 offensive linemen equates to winning. The numbers are crazy, like 12 plus wins a year anytime the 5 offensive linemen start every single game. And I think there might be only 2 teams right now that have 5 offensive linemen that have started every game. The reality of it at today's NFL, I think you need 10 offensive linemen in your building that are ready to play, because you just see these injuries are obviously high. And also, you have to factor in 17 games. I think when you play on Sunday, then now you're going to turn around and play on a Thursday game, you're not as quick to bring the guy back that you might have been 3 or 4 years ago. So I think all those things play into this. But the number of, games missed by starters due to injuries, I just can't believe it's ever been higher. And I think it's something that it needs to be addressed, or there needs to be more, because you can't keep just going like this, because, it's at the end of the day, it's about the product and the competitiveness of the games, which they're still there. But man, I just think there's so much up and down each week when you watch these teams going through these injuries.
Since we've started the show, the injuries have always been a part of the conversation. And then a couple years back, it was like backup quarterbacks. The amount of backup quarterbacks ended up playing was like 90 something or something like that. I forget. It was like absurd. Every year there's some injury storyline. This year it does feel like it's much more prevalent, especially in the teams that we thought were going to be very good. Now, you mentioned something in there about the 17-game season in choosing when guys come back and when they don't come back. Maybe we'll steal another week of rest here so we can get it on the back end. These Thursday night games, so like Trey Hendrickson, for instance, he was announced as injured because of a back, is what I remember, a back. And then now he's on the injury report for a hip, and he's questionable on a Thursday night. Anytime somebody questionable, I think for Thursday night, there's always the thought like, probably just keep him because you get like a 2-week break here. You can probably steal something. Has that always been the case for Thursday night football games, or the added game into the season kind of upped that a bit for these Thursday night games?
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying in theory, but I do. In my experience, has been with the medical staff. Every injury is specific to the player, and I've always felt that way. And the input from the player to the training staff, then to the coaching staff. I mean, you have to have a protocol that's in place because you want consistency because you want the players to have the confidence in the medical procedure and everything to get back on the field and so forth. So that's critical. But also you want the coaches to be able to plan accordingly. I mean, I would much rather know about a player not playing early than a player playing late. That's going to play late because it gives you a chance to play or plan, and it gives a chance to get these players the reps during the week and get them ready to play. Because at the end of the day, everybody in the building is going to contribute. Every one of those players in the locker room, I mean, that's part of their job description. So AJ wants to know who's playing next to him. And he wants those practice reps and the communication and stuff like that throughout the week. So that's the reality of it inside. I mean, the injury reports there's a lot of conversation that goes and really the projection of your training staff to if a guy's going to play, not play. That's a big part of it that factors into game planning for coaches.
When's that happening? That's happening in Monday meetings after a game, Tuesday, Monday afternoon.
Yeah, it's nonstop. I mean, you get the scans. I mean, if you have play a game on Sunday afternoon, like in Dallas is the same way in Green Bay. They have so many MRI slots that are already reserved for Monday morning, so you can get guys scans that anybody needs to get scanned. So you usually as a coach have a general idea, by dinner time, the ballpark of if a player is going to make it or not. So because you start game planning Monday nights, and then as Tuesday, then they come in for Tuesday treatment because some things don't, injuries don't really show themselves until 48 hours.
Yeah.
So
Toradol. Yeah. We are referring to Toradol here as well. Referring not in Green Bay, obviously.
You said it.
Yeah. Yes, I did. And
I'm playing along here.
I've lived it. The Monday night, you said by dinner time, you normally know or have a good sense of who's going to play, who's not going to play, and there's obviously a couple.
Well, no, I wouldn't say who's going to play. I mean, kind of where they are.
Got it.
In their injury, journey to get back.
What are we having for dinner? Wings? Are we pizza? What is the salad? What is like a
soup and salad? I mean, come on.
Wedding soup, coach?
Wedding soup's so good, dude. Wedding soup is so
really? Yeah, I'm not a wedding soup guy.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Clam chowder?
Really? What are you talking about? You're not a wedding soup is delightful.
Yeah, I'm old school. I like the vegetable soups. Yeah.
Okay, you like the vegetable soups like tomato. You love good
minestrone. They got that minestrone at Olive Garden.
Beef.
That kind of stuff.
There you go.
Okay, so we're a meat eater, obviously. Big steak. We have a big steak there.
Big fish eater.
Oh,
Up there in Door County or just all the time?
pescatarian.
I grew up that way, Catholic. Eat fish every Friday. I mean, I've been eating it my whole life.
Okay, so your house and fish. Like, how about the little fish sticks? Are we still eating those? The little fish sticks that we're having?
No, my kids have grown out of that now. But yeah, I definitely had a few fish sticks in the day when the kids were younger. Oh my God, this is awesome.
Say, growing up, ketchup on those? You put ketchup on those, obviously, right? Ketchup on those for sure.
Heinz, what else is there? I mean,
isn't it disgusting? Has some people from some places don't put ketchup on everything that ketchup's supposed to be on strictly because Heinz did not come from their city? Isn't that crazy? Because I'll meet some people. I'm like, you put that shit on eggs, right? No, never. It's like, yes, you do. You put that on. I think it is a different animal whenever you grow up in Pittsburgh because of how delightful Heinz is on everything.
Absolutely, the pride. The pride in the ketchup. It just. The other stuff doesn't taste the same.
You put it on hot dogs, put on hot dogs, put on eggs? You put on eggs or no?
I'm right there with you. Everything. Pretty much anything, yeah.
Not eggs.
Yes, eggs, AJ. That's what we're talking. You're exactly what I'm talking about.
No,
Well, it's scrambled.
Meat on eggs.
Scrambled eggs only.
Yes, definitely scrambled eggs. You're not putting them on sunny side up. AJ, is that what you're trying to do?
Well, you said eggs.
That's what AJ's saying, though. AJ, you're putting these on.
Yeah, well, not on hard-boiled eggs either. You got to put.
Absolutely not.
Dip them in dip a hard-boiled in there.
No, you put salt on a hard-boiled, no problem. That is certainly what you do.
Tabasco. That was the go-to.
On the hard-boiled, and are you taking the whole thing down, or are you doing the cool cut around and getting the yolk out of there because cholesterol? You got to throw that out. Are you just only eating the white of hard-boiled eggs?
Yeah, I'd say post 40 years old, take the yolks out. Yeah, but pre-40 definitely was eating the whole egg. Yeah.
Okay, now I know the keys to life. I appreciate that. Now this is part of. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's part of maturity. That's what this is. This is maturing.
Yeah.
This is living life. This is taking the yolk out. This is developing. This is becoming who you could possibly be at your best version of yourself, which leads to this question, which is going to be maybe the most high intellect conversation we've had on this particular program in some time. Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, Coach. I hope not, because I should not be asking this question if that's the case. But you brought up something pre-show about NFL QB's EQ as a mark. I had no idea what you were talking about, so we Googled it, the emotional quotient of NFL quarterbacks, and this was the definition essentially. What do you mean by NFL QB's EQ? How can you actually measure something like this? And then when you think about the quarterbacks who have been in first-year offenses like Danny Dimes, Drake May with McDaniels, Sam Darnold in Seattle. I mean, you could even go to J.J. McCarthy because it was his first time really playing in that offense. How do you kind of judge that EQ? And for those guys who are first years in those offenses, does that kind of mean they have a high NFL QB EQ just because of the fact that they're having immediate success? Or how do you judge something like that?
Well, that's a specific individual, criteria to it. I was referring to, I was kind of spinning off of our conversation last week when we were talking about Baker Mayfield. When you look at Baker, look at Sam Darnold, and Daniel Jones, and you could even put Aaron into this category. These guys that are were disrespected, kind of a pissed off group of quarterbacks, and you look at their success, but you look at their path, and I just think there's so much to learn from when things don't go right. There's so much value in that, because it gives you a heightened awareness. It gives you, it heightens your anticipation ability, conflict resolution. You definitely learn to deal with that, handling success when it comes off of that. So now you don't get too high. So I just think when you look at the EQ of these guys that are you're playing their ass off, and and Aaron's kind of an exception of the fact, but because he's played so much football, but so much that led up to the season, and I think they're really becoming a team that we all were hoping and that they're going to be. But and AJ knows better than anybody. He's at his best when he's pissed off and plays with a chip on his shoulder. But I look at these guys that have gone through so much, and they're just playing great football, and I just think it says so much about them personally for what they had to go through. I mean, to go to Green Bay as a young first-round pick and have to sit for 3 years before you play, there's some emotional maturity that goes with that. So, I mean, that's hard. And I think, your point, Connor, about, J.J. McCarthy, I mean, there's some maturity coming off a national championship and then ability to watch and learn and be behind Sam, and now it's your time. So I just think the EQ, because, there's so much that goes into the evaluation of every NFL player, and the mental breakdown, the physical breakdown, the video studies and this and everything. But the EQ is really where the goal's at, and how you judge that, and how you evaluate that, how you quantify that. That's really the beauty that's in the sauce of every organization's evaluation process.
Coach, I'll tell you what, you being the guy saying EQ is what we need to be looking for, the emotional quotient is certainly right on par with every conversation we've had with you thus far, which has led to numerous situations where potential backhanded compliments have come from one of us to you, more specifically me. You bringing up the emotional quotient being one of the most important things of a quarterback. If we can put the graphic back up, please. This is literally exactly what you need in a leader of an organization. I mean, this is what, whenever you're going through the draft process, we should be trying to figure out the EQ of every one of the guys that are going to be put in positions of leadership. Self-awareness, AJ, how often have we talked about that being the most important thing in anything?
Every single day, about every aspect of your life, not even just sports.
You talk about be who you can afford to be. That is strictly from self-awareness, and that is not just in football. That's in any leadership position or just in life. Self-awareness, understanding the situation, who you're allowed to be, who you're not allowed to be in this particular situation. Self-regulation, obviously, that's discipline. We would like to know the discipline of the people that are going to be having to lead. Social awareness, obviously, how they interact with their team, how they interact with the media, how they interact with marketing, even if you get it, how they interact with everything is a massive ordeal. And then relationship management. I've never seen something that leaders have to have at a high level just described so perfectly. I mean, the emotional quotient, whenever we're talking about, hey, how do you know the right guys to draft at the position? You know, we all know they can run and we all know they can. It seems like the EQ, as Coach Mike McCarthy's saying here, is what we've been looking for this entire time. So I'd like to tell you, Coach, thank you for introducing that into my life. And also thank you for letting us behind the scenes a little bit on what goes into being a great leader, a quarterback. It is the EQ is what we're looking to do. It's the ability to understand, manage, and express your emotions while recognizing the influence of others. That's quarterback in the NFL.
True.
That's a coach in the NFL. That's a CEO. That's a manager. That is literally everything we're looking for whenever we talk about love and ball. Who's also committed? It's the EQ level, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, to Pat's point right there about managing, is this something that GMs have to have a very, very high, not tolerance, but awareness of? Just because, Andy Reid came on and he talked about how Brett Veach would tell him, his read on a player, and then that read would be correct, and that's kind of how he rose through the ranks. Is that something that GMs have to have when they're evaluating players then?
I mean, let's be honest, your whole leadership hierarchy has to have it. And obviously when it's coordinated and it fits together, then now you're working at such a different level. But yes, I think clearly from ownership to president to GM to head coach, I think, all that involved. Because there's nothing worse as a leader finding out after the fact. And I would say that if I said it once in a staff meeting, I said it 1,000 times. I don't need to be the first guy to know when AJ skips his workout in the morning, which he never did. But I don't need to be the first guy to know, but I can't be the last guy to know. You can't. It's having the awareness to make sure that everything we ask the players to do, everything we ask each other to do, everything we ask the support staff to do, it's done for a reason. We don't just do things because this is the way so-and-so did it back in the 60s. So, I mean, have a purpose for everything you do, but it has to be done, because if it's not done, then now the credibility starts to go away. Then the culture starts to erode and things like that. So have a reason for why you do it, but you got to have people that buy into the structure, understand where the walls and the boundaries of the structure are, and just adhere to it. And I just think common sense goes such a long way in that journey. And as for all of us, if you can take the emotion out of the tough moments and learn from it, I think it gives you a such higher opportunity for success.
Yes. Hell yeah, Coach.
Yeah.
That's some good spoken word right
Sometimes common sense isn't common sense, though, right? In there situations, Coach, where like, well, I assumed that was common sense, and that's not always the case. Some people don't have a whole lot of common sense.
I couldn't even imagine.
How do you handle
I
that?
think that's a great point, AJ. No, I think that's where continuing education comes in. Common sense to me is definitely going to be maybe not be the same as a 24-year-old too. So that's my responsibility. You have clear communication, clarity what's expected, and I go back to not having 9,000 roles. We used to hand out that we'd have that fine schedule every year that you had to put up in front of the team. I mean, it's how can you just make it bring it all together? And that's where I always felt this. We have one rule. No
disrespect. No disrespect.
Covers everything. Yeah, it covers everything. So I mean,
I love
being
it.
late for a meeting. Yeah, I mean, if you put a ton of energy into a 10-minute presentation that you're putting together for the team, and then you got guys who are going to walk in late. I mean, that's disrespectful. So I mean, in my view. So I just think in just giving clarity and understanding But the group dynamics is it's an unbelievable journey to have, to go into a situation each year, try to build a team that's going to now navigate and grind through a 17-game season, and then you got to really go play the real games and playoff football. I mean, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. So I just think keeping it consistent, concise, and clear, it just goes a long way.